It's your choice. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matapo. And thank you so much to the media houses for the questions or clarities that you would have sought. On the parole status, why the number of approval are so low, I think it would be best suited for us to send that query or request to the office of the minister or to the executive, because of the approval of parole lies within his jurisdiction. The NCC does its own process of receiving profiles, and after receiving profiles, they then make a recommendation that goes to the minister, whom, based on that recommendation, it's within his prerogative whether to take the recommendation that the NCC has made or to decline it. And if he does decline, there would be reasons to it, why that. And if he does accept the recommendation that is made by the NCC, equally, there would be reasons why for that. And I think on the budget speech debate last week, the minister would have alluded to this effect. So I think that question would entirely lie on him, on why the approval it's so low. I think he made mention about 5 that have been approved, but that clarity, I think, should go straight to him on that basis. And on corporal punishment, a very tricky one. I would want to base the history, Mutapo, if I'm allowed, that there've been sequence of events that led to abolishing corporal punishment. And this sequence of events dates from 1997. Largely, it was legal practitioners, or there was a legal milestone in trying to abolish corporal punishment. So it's not something that comes from now. And it's rooted on the basis of Section 10 of the Constitution and Section 28, which speaks to human dignity or human rights and causing any bodily harm to kids or to anyone. What is our view as the Portfolio Committee, or my view? I believe it's in the best interest of whoever's in the executive or whoever's in the government to abide by the constitution of the country. Why has the minister taken a step to say we should perhaps open debates on corporal punishment? We are yet to be taken into confidence as well as the Portfolio Committee. And I can assure you that tomorrow we do have a Portfolio Committee of Correctional Service from 9:30, and we would probe the minister on what made, why did he make those assertions and what informs them, so that he takes us through that. But what lies with our views across, and I think part of the members of the Portfolio Committee equally have been seized with such questions from media houses. And what we relay, it's our opinions, but it's not a view of the Portfolio Committee. There are other measures that we can try to deal with or come up with alternatively that must deal with overcrowding outside of corporal punishment, especially of those that have less fines or less crimes that leads to them having a bail of less than 300 rands. And some of this, perhaps we could start a debate or discussion on community service. Those who have less crimes, petty crimes, why not invite them? Or there must be stringent measures to say they must do community service. Community service, cleaning up the streets, our schools, churches, put on more rehabilitative outlined programs that talks to the current challenges we are facing. Issues of overcrowding outside of what you need to introduce. There's an issue of foreign nationals that by introducing this new amendment of the legislation, especially focusing on the Section 73, subsection A and B, on foreign nationals, those who are sentenced around 13,000 rands, if there is that inmate exchange between the executive and other countries on that exchange program. It alleviates around 13,000 foreign nationals that are sentenced to go serve those life sentences in their countries. In dealing with bail issues of less than 300 rands, I've spoken to the form of community services or matter with the justice, especially for awaiting trials that have been awaiting to see a day in court for more than a year or 2 years. The justice system must come into play to try and mitigate the referrals that are made under the 63A and 49G. We have invited the Minister of Justice to come and unpack on that for us. We are just waiting a day from her side and her department, when will they appear before the portfolio committee, to be able to take through the portfolio committee on that instance. Because of that number as well, around 19,000, if it gets to be looked into and taken into, it can also try to ease the tension of overcrowding. State patients that are incarcerated or are remanded in correctional facilities, the Department of Health needs to look into that matter. If you deal with it and they go to where they are supposed to be, it equally speaks to alleviating overcrowding in correctional facilities. So there are a number of matters. These are some that I'm highlighting. There are a number of core issues that are hampering on overcrowding in correctional facilities, but it does not need us to reinvent the wheel of introducing corporal punishment. We need to talk to the current challenges and try to remedy the situation. But you can't say when you're facing this challenge, not deal with it and go and try to introduce something that in its totality needs to go through the legislation. Because if you are saying we must reintroduce it, what happens to schools? Are we saying we must equally reintroduce a corporal punishment to schools, which the Bella Act speaks against? So it's something that we have taken a decision that it's not before the portfolio committee tomorrow, but when the minister comes in and speaks to the remedial action on findings that the AG has highlighted with regards to the department, before he takes us through that, he should be able to take through the portfolio committee what informed this insertion and what is the rationale behind this thinking of reintroducing corporal punishment, because of it has mixed messages and it sends a wrong impression outside. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Mananiso.
Thank you, Mr. Matapo. I would respond to 2 questions. One is from the first speaker. I think with regards to issues of allegations of yesterday, for us as the Select Committee, it is a grave concern. However, we hope that the President will swiftly respond to that issue as it comes back. That's what I can say. And all of us, we do believe that lawlessness in the sector must be dealt with. That's one thing that I can confirm to you by our portfolio committee or the Select Committee. With regards to the issue that is happening on matters of foreigners using the state hospitals, one can just say that as the chairperson of the Select Committee, any remedy or response that seeks to address challenges that we are facing as a country, if it's not done within the confinements of the law, it is reactionary. So I think whatever that is happening, it actually calls to us as a cluster to move speedily in terms of how do we do our work. As I said when I was making my comments, I said that we are actually advocating that we need to work on an integrated approach that is multi-sectoral and as well that speaks to the ecosystem of governance. So there's a need that all of us as this particular cluster, we need to address that matter with agent it deserves. But anything that happens outside what we know as the law in South Africa is reactionary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chairperson Cameron, you might need to approach the podium because there is a big screen that is going to obstruct you where you are sitting. Thank you. Yeah, he's got a lot to account to.
Luckily, I'm not wearing my camos today. I don't know if it's too soon to make a joke about it, but firstly, just in terms of the independent media question there you are. No, it's extremely concerning. In essence, it means that it's totally captured. That's what it comes down to, because it's the very highest echelons of the South African police service that form part of this. The fact that it was mentioned that dockets were allegedly removed from one point with a political instruction it's completely, totally and utterly wrong. I'll touch on the political instruction just now when I come back to the disbanding of the political killing task team. In terms of Dr. Guy Lamb's comment, there's quite a bit of truth in it, obviously. I mean, illicit firearms are, in my opinion, totally out of control. If you go and read the latest reports by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, you would note the last circular that I read, it was far over 3 million illicit firearms being circulated in the SADC region, which is remarkable. Now, obviously, dynamics in each country is different, so we can't compare it exactly with each other, but it gives you an idea of how big the problem is. I mean, if you look at the shooting that happened last week in Mitchell's Plain, the question keeps coming up, where do the firearms come from? And we very, very often see, and this leads to the question regarding police safeguarding of firearm, that unfortunately many of the firearms seized end up back on the street, and they end up seizing the same one again. Just a few months ago, there was a specific case of, I think it was Cape Town Flying Squad, but I don't have it in front of me now, where I think they seized a firearm somewhere in the Cape Flats, that had previously been handed into a SAP 13 store at another station just a few months back. So no, that's also part, I think, of the integrity issue. I think what needs to be considered there as a potential solution in terms of firearm destruction, there's this whole the holy grail of we can't destroy it too soon because it needs to be linked to something. But in the majority of cases, many of these firearms that are seized aren't necessarily linked. So why are we storing firearms not linked to a case for longer than 5 or 10 years? And people can argue, yes, but whatever case comes in. But essentially, if you go and visit some of these stations, as we've done with Oversight, there are thousands upon thousands of firearms at certain stations. It poses major security risks. And so I hope that colors in your question. Then the Eyewitness News question, the Brown Mokgatsi affiliation or potential affiliation will definitely be part of the briefing with the committee. So there's no doubt that will happen. I went and watched the clips again after yesterday, and it's spot on. That's exactly what was said. There is no affiliation. So the minister would need to account for that. We need to have that discussion. And it's important to understand that if it were to be indicated that the minister or whoever else lied to Parliament, that's a criminal offence. And I think, we're going to have a very uncomfortable discussion regarding that. Then just in terms of the committee meeting with the minister, absolutely. Regarding, and I'm going to link it to one of the other questions regarding who plays the oversight role, and I'll come back to it again. But that's one of the reasons we also wrote to the Speaker. The fact that, as one of the chairs also said, that the President is also involved brings a whole set of different dynamics or potential dynamics. So I actually think, and we'll wait for the feedback from the House Chairperson as well as the Speaker, because there could be a broader parliamentary involvement than only the Portfolio Committee. The Select Committee, for example, can play a significant role. So there are quite a few remedies to our disposal. We should have an answer later today. As I said, we wrote last night. I know there were also letters sent this morning. So later today, we should have a more accurate answer. I'll come back to who presides over it just now. Then just in terms of the SABC question, should the minister be suspended? Well, let's look at it from a policing point of view. If a police member has in any way allegedly performed some kind of misconduct, there's usually suspension. Many people always explain it as though it's punitive to that police member, but that's not the reasoning behind it. The reasoning is to protect the integrity of the institution, one, and two, of the investigation. Now, if any preliminary investigation indicates any form of political influence from anywhere in the ministry, suspension should be considered. And that is to protect the integrity of the institution and the integrity of the investigation. And that counts for everyone that is potentially implicated. It was then also bordering on lawlessness. That comment broke protocol. So this, to me, I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in due process needing to be followed. And I keep on going back and forth in my mind, because what yesterday showed me was a massive frustration with the fact that action is never taken or hardly ever taken. And my question is that if General Mkhwanazi simply went and opened a case, can any of us comfortably say that that would have been investigated? And unfortunately, I can't say that. Now, should we not follow due process or not allow the rule of law to prevail? No, we have to, because we've got to set a higher standard in how we conduct ourselves. But with the frustration with the criminal justice system, it really has become apparent that it seems that you have to every time kick up a fuss or fight for something to actually change. And that leads me to the question regarding the summoning the actual report mentioned by the PC. Absolutely. As much as we can possibly get our hands on, we will. Obviously, again, if something is sub judice, we don't want to influence the criminal procedure in any way. But in terms of us understanding the dynamics of this thing, we have to. It's a totally unprecedented moment. I don't know about you, but I've never seen something like this happen. And yeah, we'll have to do everything we can to understand every detail. I just want to jump to a question in terms of whose authority acted on the Newsroom Africa question, and then also the closing of the political killings task team. Under whose authority? According to me, he made it clear yesterday that the National Commissioner knew of the press conference that he was holding. So I understood that it would be under the authority. I don't know if he granted every single piece of what was said, but he knew there was a press conference. Where General Mkhwanazi, in my opinion, is 100% correct, is he does not answer to the minister in terms of the command structure. He answers to the National Commissioner. And I want to make this very, very clear, because over the years, we've seen politicians become generals and all sorts of very interesting appointments as national commissioners. And I think it's blurred the lines, where even after politicians that didn't come through the ranks remain generals, it creates confusion as to the actual command structure of the South African Police Service. No minister or political appointment in the ministry or any other political office for that matter has operational say over the South African Police Service. It's like me thinking that we're some kind of quasi police unit that can investigate certain matters. I can't. I don't have that authority. I'm not a police officer, and I'm not going to act like I'm one. So it's just important for me to actually underscore that in terms of the command structure, nothing that was said there is wrong in terms of him reporting to the National Commissioner. That is correct. That leads me to the question about the political killings task team. The instruction was given, you'd remember a few months ago, that it must be dismantled. There were several discussions about it. I know it was moved to the Deputy National Commissioner. We've all heard what was said. The explanation that was given to the Police Portfolio Committee was that why should we have a special task team while there are so many other different kinds of serious crime? Why is this special? Why can't it just be investigated as crime in general? That's one of the explanations that we got. Yeah, do I approve of it? I would like to first actually see the evidence of what General Mpunazi said yesterday about how well it performed. Now, when we previously asked the question, we saw a lot of explanation of how well they did perform and successes that they got. But at the same time, there are many people that spoke out about the abuse by that specific unit and things that they did wrong. To be honest with you, sometimes it feels like I'm watching tennis as the implications and allegations come in that I don't know who to believe anymore. So during this inquiry process, we would need to see what that evidence is to understand better about it. If I'm not mistaken, there's a specific murder sentencing happening today that was due to a case that was investigated by the political killings task team, and that person is being sentenced today, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check the detail shortly. The last 2 or 3 questions, in terms of, Jason, your question of the who runs the process, that's part of the advice that we will hopefully also get from Parliament. In terms of the committee, we will definitely engage in that discussion with the minister and the said persons. There's no doubt that we will go ahead with that. And who would preside? Well, I think if there's a commission, an urgent commission or ad hoc commission of some kind, I think it would be important that it is an ex-judge or an independent individual of that kind that needs to preside over it. I know there was a meeting this morning with certain officials at Parliament. It was during this media briefing regarding certain processes and remedies to our disposal. So we'll communicate on that as soon as we can. To me, it is critical that we have an independent kind of authority or person that can preside over this process. I don't have the trust, unfortunately, that internally it will be done fairly and without interference. Then I think that's it. The firearms, I got it, unless there are more questions about it. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cameron.